While cleaning the bedroom, I found a tube of lubricant hidden in my wife's drawer. We hadn't been intimate for 2 years yet. That tube was half empty. In that moment, I realized I'd been betrayed in the very home I had built. I didn't confront her. I didn't yell or demand answers. I simply replaced it with rat glue and waited. An hour later, the cries for help destroyed their lives forever. Before we continue, please support the channel by liking this video and subscribing for more meaningful stories like this. Drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from. Your engagement truly helps these stories reach more people. Note some elements are fictionalized for storytelling purposes, but I hope the message stays with you. The house was too quiet. I sat in the dark living room, the only light coming from the street lamp outside filtering through the curtains. In my hand was my father's old pocket watch, the brass worn smooth from decades of being passed from his calloused fingers to mine. I wasn't checking the time. I already knew it was late. I was holding it because it was the only thing that felt solid anymore. 10:30 rolled into 11, then 11:15. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked on each second, stretching longer than the last. Monica was supposed to be home by 9. She'd said something about meeting an old client, someone who needed help with their books. She used to do bookkeeping for Lawson & Sons before we got big enough to hire a full accounting team. Nowadays, she only took on a few private clients here and there just to keep busy, or so she said. I rubbed my thumb over the smooth face of the watch. My father gave it to me the day I started the company 38 years ago. Back then, it was just me, a beat-up truck, and a toolbox. Now Lawson & Sons Construction employed 52 people and pulled in $12 million a year. I'd built that company the same way I built this house, board by board, nail by nail, with my own 2 hands. This house. 2 stories of craftsman-style beauty, every joint fitted, every beam chosen. I designed it myself back when Monica was pregnant with Leora. I remember standing in this very spot, sawdust in my hair, Monica laughing as she held up paint samples. She wanted sage green for the kitchen. I wanted her to be happy. We went with sage green. That was 32 years ago, a lifetime. Headlights swept across the window. I didn't move. Didn't stand up to greet her like I usually would. I just sat there in the dark, the pocket watch heavy in my palm, and listened. The car door shut. Heels clicked on the walkway, sharp, quick. Monica didn't usually wear heels on a weeknight. The key scraped in the lock. The door opened, and there she was, silhouetted in the doorway, pulling off her coat. She didn't see me at first. She hummed softly, something I didn't recognize, as she set her purse on the entryway table and slipped off her shoes. Then she turned toward the living room and froze. "Trevor." Her hand flew to her chest. "You scared me. What are you doing sitting in the dark?" I clicked on the lamp beside me. The warm light filled the room, and I got a good look at her. She was wearing a black cocktail dress. Not the comfortable jeans and sweater she'd left in that morning. Not the practical slacks she wore to client meetings. A dress. Her hair was styled makeup, fresh. And there was a scent clinging to her that wasn't the perfume I'd bought her last Christmas. "Long meeting," I said. My voice came out flat. She laughed a little too bright. "Oh, you know how Mrs. Patterson is. She just talks and talks. I couldn't get away." Mrs. Patterson. I knew Mrs. Patterson. She was 74 and went to bed at 8:30 every night without fail. "Right," I said. I stood up, slowly slipping the pocket watch into my pocket. "I'm heading to bed. Long day tomorrow." Monica smiled, relief flickering across her face. "I'll be up in a minute. Just need to grab some water." I nodded and walked past her toward the stairs. But I didn't go up. I waited in the hallway just out of sight, listening to the sounds of her moving through the kitchen. The fridge opening. Ice clinking in a glass. Then the soft rustle of fabric. She'd left her purse on the table. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was the dress. Maybe it was the perfume. Maybe it was the way she'd lied so easily, so smoothly, like she'd done it 100 times before. I moved quietly, my footsteps silent on the hardwood I'd laid myself. Her purse sat there unzipped. I reached inside. The first thing I found was a receipt. Riverside Inn, $287. Dated today, check-in time 3 p.m. My hand tightened around the paper. I kept digging. Lipstick, wallet, keys. And then at the bottom, tucked inside a makeup bag, a piece of red lace. I pulled it out slowly. Lingerie, brand new tags still attached. Size small. Monica hadn't worn a size small in 20 years. The world tilted. I stood there holding that scrap of lace and felt something crack open inside my chest. 38 years. 38 years of building a life together, raising our daughter, working side by side. I'd built her a home. I'd given her everything, and she'd bought lingerie for someone else. Footsteps on the stairs. I shoved everything back into her purse and moved quickly, slipping into the downstairs bathroom and closing the door. I heard her pause at the top of the stairs. "Now, Trevor, are you coming up?" I waited. 10 seconds, 20. Then I flushed the toilet and ran the water, buying myself time to breathe. "Yeah," I called back. "Be right there." By the time I climbed the stairs, Monica was already in bed, her back to me, the blanket pulled up to her shoulders. I stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at her. The woman I'd loved for nearly 4 decades. The woman who'd stood beside me through every struggle, every triumph. Who was she now? I undressed slowly, folding my clothes, setting the pocket watch on the nightstand, like I did every night. Then I slid into bed beside her. The mattress dipped under my weight. She didn't stir. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe. In, out. Slow and steady. Peaceful. My mind raced. The receipt, the lingerie, the dress, the perfume that wasn't hers. How long had she been lying to me? How many nights had she come home late with a story I'd believed because I trusted her? How many times had she looked me in the eye and smiled while hiding secrets? I thought about confronting her. Right now. Waking her up and demanding answers. But something stopped me. If I confronted her now, she'd lie. She'd cover her tracks. She'd make me look like the fool who couldn't see what was right in front of him. No, I needed to know everything first. I needed proof. I needed to see the full picture before I made a move. I rolled onto my side away from her and closed my eyes. But I didn't sleep. Somewhere in the house, the grandfather clock chimed midnight. And in the darkness, with my wife's steady breathing beside me, I made a decision. I was going to find out the whole story. Every lie, every betrayal, every detail. And then I was going to make sure she never saw it coming. The smell of pancakes filled the kitchen, buttery and sweet, just the way Monica liked them. I stood at the stove, flipping each one with practiced ease, watching the golden edges crisp up. The coffee maker gurgled on the counter. Everything looked normal, peaceful, like any other Friday morning in 38 years of marriage. But my hands weren't steady. Monica came downstairs at 7:15, already dressed in slacks and a blazer. She kissed my cheek as she passed, grabbing a mug from the cabinet. "Yeah, you're up early," she said, pouring herself coffee. Feeling okay, I slid 2 pancakes onto a plate and set it in front of her. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd make breakfast." She smiled, the same smile that used to make my chest warm. Now it just made me cold. "You're sweet," she said, cutting into the stack. "I've got to run soon, though. Meeting a client at 9. Another client. Another meeting." I sat down across from her with my own plate, though I had no appetite. "Anyone I know?" "Oh, just someone from the old days. Needs help sorting through tax documents." She waved her fork dismissively. "Boring stuff." I nodded, sipping my coffee. Watched her eat. Watched her check her phone twice. Watched her glance at the clock like she couldn't wait to leave. By 7:40, she was out the door. I stood at the window, and watched her car disappear down the street. Then I picked up my phone and texted my foreman, not feeling well. Taking the day, you've got the crew. His reply came fast. No problem, boss. Feel better. I wasn't going to feel better, not anytime soon. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom. Monica had made the bed before she left the corners tucked tight like always. We'd shared that bed for decades. I'd held her through nightmares, through grief, through Leora's teenage years when we were both exhausted and scared. Now I was about to tear through her things like a stranger. I started with her dresser. Top drawer, nothing. Second drawer, scarves and old jewelry. Third drawer, beneath a stack of sweaters, I found a shoebox. Inside were receipts, dozens of them. I spread them across the bed like evidence at a crime scene. 8 hotel receipts from different places within 50 miles. Riverside Inn, the Grandview, Maple Suites. Dates going back 4 months. Total $2,400. 4 receipts from the Wellington Steakhouse. $180 each. Always 2 entrees. Always a bottle of wine. A receipt from a boutique I didn't recognize. $385. Lingerie. And tucked at the bottom a small bag from a men's cologne shop. $220. The brand wasn't mine. My chest tightened. I pulled out my phone and logged into our joint bank account. Scrolled through 6 months of transactions. There it was, buried among grocery runs and utility bills. Cash withdrawals. $500 here, $800 there, week after week. $15,000. Gone. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, staring at the numbers on the screen. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was calculated. Deliberate. She'd been planning this for months. I needed help. I scrolled through my contacts and hit Warren's number. He picked up on the second ring. "Trevor, what's up?" "Warren." My voice sounded rough. "I need to talk. Can you meet me?" "Everything okay?" "No. I'll be at your place in 20. Warren Blackwood had been my business partner for 30 years. He was my COO, my right hand, and one of the few people I trusted completely. He showed up in his truck still wearing his work boots. I let him in and poured him coffee without asking. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Monica had eaten pancakes an hour ago. "Talk to me," Warren said. So I did. I told him about the receipts, the hotels, the money, the red lace. When I finished, Warren was quiet for a long time. "I'm sorry, Trevor. You knew something, didn't you?" He rubbed his face. "I saw her last Tuesday at that coffee place downtown, around 2 in the afternoon. She was sitting with some guy. Younger. Mid-30s, maybe. They were laughing real close. I thought maybe it was work, but now. What did he look like? Tall, blonde hair, wore a suit, looked like money." My jaw tightened. I need to know everything. Who he is. How long this has been going on. Warren nodded slowly. "You need a professional. Vincent Harper. Used to be a cop, retired 5 years ago, runs his own PI firm now. He's good, discreet. By noon, I was sitting in Vincent Harper's office downtown. The place was small but clean, with filing cabinets lining one wall and a desk cluttered with case files. Vincent himself was a solid man, in his late 40s, graying at the temples with calm, assessing eyes. He listened while I laid out everything. The receipts, the cash, the coffee shop sighting. He took notes, nodding occasionally, his expression never changing. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "I can help you," he said. "Surveillance, documentation. $1,500 up front plus $125 an hour for active field work. Might take a couple weeks." "I don't care what it costs," I said. "I need to know." Vincent nodded. "Then we've got a deal." I signed the contract. Gave him a photo of Monica. Told him her schedule, the places she went, the car she drove. When we were done, he pulled out a cheap flip phone and slid it across the desk. "Keep this with you," he said. "When I have something, I'll contact this number. Don't use it for anything else, and don't tell anyone you have it. I picked up the phone. It felt like holding a live grenade. How soon? I asked. Could be days. Could be a week. Depends on her patterns. Vincent stood and shook my hand. I'll be in touch. I walked out into the bright afternoon sun, the burner phone heavy in my pocket. Then I drove home to wait. The sound of a table saw cut through the air, sharp and clean. I stood in the middle of what used to be the cafeteria of Millbrook Elementary, clipboard in hand, watching my crew frame out the new walls. This project was a big one, $340,000, to turn the old school into a community center. We were ahead of schedule and the work was good. Solid. I liked being on site. Liked the smell of sawdust and fresh lumber, the rhythm of hammers. Out here, things made sense. You measure twice, cut once, and if you do it right, it holds. If only the rest of life worked that way. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Not my regular phone. The other one. I stepped outside into the parking lot away from the noise. The afternoon sun was bright hot on my neck. I pulled out the burner and stared at the screen. One new message. Vincent Harper. My thumb hovered over the notification. Part of me didn't want to open it. Once I saw what was inside, there'd be no going back. I opened it. 4 photos loaded one by one, slow and deliberate. I wasn't prepared. The first photo showed a parking lot. I recognized it immediately. Riverside Inn. In the frame were 2 people standing beside a dark sedan. A woman with brown hair wearing a cream-colored blouse. A man taller, younger, blonde hair, slicked back, wearing a gray suit. They were kissing. Not a peck on the cheek. A real kiss. The kind that said everything. I stared at Monica's face tilted up toward him, her hand resting on his chest. The second photo was worse. Same angle a moment later. Her hand had moved to the back of his neck, pulling him closer. His hand was on her waist. They looked like they'd done this 100 times before. The third photo showed them walking toward the entrance of the inn, fingers laced together. Monica was smiling. I couldn't remember the last time she'd smiled at me like that. I almost didn't look at the fourth photo. My hand was shaking so hard, I nearly dropped the phone. But I looked. This one was a close-up. A clear shot of the man's face as he turned toward the camera, keys in hand, laughing at something Monica had said. Blonde hair, blue eyes, sharp jawline, mid-30s maybe, and I knew him. My stomach dropped like I'd stepped off a ledge. Desmond Clark, my son-in-law. The man married to my daughter. The phone slipped from my hand and hit the asphalt. I just stood there staring at nothing, trying to breathe. Desmond. The man who'd sat at my dinner table every Sunday for the past 2 years. The man who called me sir and shook my hand and kissed my daughter goodnight. The man I'd trusted with Leora's happiness. And he'd been sleeping with my wife. My vision blurred. Blood roared in my ears. I bent down and grabbed the phone with shaking hands, scrolling to the message beneath the photos. Vincent's text was short and clinical. Subject confirmed. Desmond Clark, age 34, married to your daughter, Leora Lawson Clark, age 32. Financial advisor at Harmon and Associates. Relationship with Monica Lawson observed 4 times in the past week. Surveillance continuing. More to follow. 4 times in 1 week. I leaned against the side of my truck, gripping the edge of the bed to steady myself. Around me, the world kept moving. Cars passed on the street. Inside the building, the saw screamed on, but I couldn't move. Leora. Oh God, Leora, my little girl. 32 years old now. But I still remembered the day she was born, how small she'd been in my arms. How I'd promised her I'd always keep her safe. I'd walked her down the aisle 2.5 years ago, handed her over to Desmond, told him to take care of her. And he'd done this. My hands curled into fists. I wanted to put them through something. Through Desmond's face. Through the windshield of his car. But I couldn't. Not yet. I forced myself to breathe. Then I pulled up Warren's number and hit call. He answered on the first ring. Trevor, it's Desmond. My voice came out hoarse, broken. It's my son-in-law. There was a long silence on the other end. "Ah, Jesus Christ," Warren finally said. "I just got the photos. Vincent sent them. It's him. It's been him this whole time." "Where are you?" "The school site." "Stay there, I'm coming." "No, I'm coming to you. I can't be here right now." My voice cracked. "Okay," Warren said quietly. "Come to my place. I'll be here." I hung up and climbed into my truck. Didn't tell my foreman I was leaving. Didn't call Monica. Just gripped the steering wheel and drove. I passed my own street without stopping. Kept going until I pulled into Warren's driveway and killed the engine. Warren was already on the porch waiting. I got out and walked toward him. For the first time since this all started, I said it out loud. "She's been sleeping with Leora's husband." Warren's face went hard. "Come inside." I followed him into the kitchen, where we'd sat just days ago when this was only suspicion. Now it was real. Now it had a name and a face. Warren poured me a glass of water. I didn't drink it. "Oh, what are you going to do?" he asked. "I don't know. You can't confront them yet. Not until you know the whole story. If you go in there now, they'll cover their tracks. And this isn't just about Monica anymore. This is about Leora. She's married to him. She loves him. If you blow this up without proof, without a plan, she's the one who's going to get hurt the most." I closed my eyes. He was right. Leora didn't know. She had no idea her husband was betraying her, that her mother was betraying all of us. Warren leaned forward. "You need more than photos, Trevor. You need to know how deep this goes, how long it's been happening, if there's money involved, if they're planning something. Planning what? I don't know, but people who cheat don't usually stop there." I looked at him. "You think they're after something? I think you need to find out." I stared at Desmond's face on the screen. 34 years old, financial advisor, access to my company records through Monica, who used to do our books, access to Leora's trust fund, access to everything. Warren was right. This was bigger than an affair. I needed a plan. To protect Leora, to protect everything I'd built, and I needed to do it without them knowing I was coming. Warren poured 2 fingers of bourbon into each glass without asking if I wanted any. We sat across from each other in his living room, the only light coming from a lamp in the corner. Outside, the sky had gone dark. Inside, neither of us had spoken in 5 minutes. I stared at the amber liquid in my glass, watching it catch the light. My hands had finally stopped shaking, but my chest still felt like someone had driven a spike through it. Warren took a slow sip, then set his glass down. 15 years ago, he said quietly, my wife had an affair. I looked up. Her name was Caroline. We'd been married 22 years. I thought we were solid. Happy even. He leaned back in his chair, his face lined and tired. I found out by accident. Saw a text on her phone. I confronted her that same night. Demanded answers. Told her to pack her bags. He paused, rubbing his jaw. Biggest mistake I ever made. I frowned. What do you mean? I mean, I acted on emotion instead of strategy. I didn't have proof beyond that one text. I didn't know how long it had been going on, who the guy was, whether she'd been hiding money. I just exploded, and she was ready for it. She had a lawyer by morning. Took the house 60% of the business primary custody of our daughter. By the time the dust settled, I'd lost everything that mattered. He picked up his glass again, swirling the bourbon. Because I moved too fast. Because I didn't have everything lined up before I pulled the trigger. I felt something cold settle in my gut. So what are you saying? Warren met my eyes. I'm saying don't make my mistake. Don't move until you have everything. Evidence. Money trail. Witnesses. Know every lie they've told, every move they've made. Then you strike once hard and you take it all. I sat back, letting his words sink in. He was right. If I went home tonight and confronted Monica, What would happen? She'd deny it. Desmond would deny it. They'd destroy evidence, close accounts, lawyer up, and I'd be left with nothing but 4 photos and a broken marriage. Worse, Leora would be caught in the middle. She'd have to choose between believing her father or her husband. And without undeniable proof, I'd look like the paranoid old man tearing the family apart. No, I needed more than photos. I needed everything. So what do? I asked. Warren leaned forward, elbows on his knees. First, Vincent keeps digging. Photos aren't enough. You need video, audio if possible. You need to know how often they're meeting, where, when. Build a timeline. Make it impossible to deny. I nodded. Second, you go through your finances with a fine-tooth comb. Company accounts, joint accounts, property, retirement. If Monica has access to any of it, you need to know what she's been doing. Check for transfers, withdrawals, anything unusual. Same with Desmond. If he's a financial advisor, he knows how to move money. Find out if he's been moving yours. My jaw tightened. I hadn't even thought about that. Third, Warren continued, you keep your mouth shut. You don't tell anyone. Not Leora, not your foreman, not your secretary, no one. You go to work every day like nothing's wrong. You come home and kiss Monica on the cheek. You smile at Desmond at Sunday dinner. You act like everything's fine until you're ready to burn it all down. I stared at him. You want me to pretend? Goody, I want you to survive this, Warren said flatly. And the only way you do that is if they never see you coming. I picked up my glass and drank. The bourbon burned going down, but it felt good. Grounding. Warren was right about all of it. If I wanted to protect Leora, if I wanted to protect everything I'd built, I had to be smarter than them. Colder, more patient. What about Leora? I asked. When do I tell her? Warren's face softened. Not until you have proof she can't deny. If you tell her now, she'll confront Desmond. He'll lie. She'll believe him because she loves him. And then you've lost her. I closed my eyes. The thought of keeping this from my daughter felt like swallowing glass. But he was right. Okay, I said. I'll wait. Warren nodded. Good. Now go home. Act normal. And let Vincent do his job. I finished my drink and stood. Warren walked me to the door, clapped a hand on my shoulder. You're going to get through this, Trevor. But you've got to be smart. I know. I drove home through empty streets, rehearsing what I'd say when I walked in. Something casual. Something believable. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I had my mask on. Monica was in the kitchen when I came through the door, putting away dishes. She turned, smiled. There you are. I was starting to worry. I set my keys on the counter, keeping my voice easy. Sorry. Got tied up with Warren going over the school project. Lost track of time. She dried her hands on a towel. Everything okay? Yeah, just details. She studied me for a second, and I wondered if she could see through me. If she knew, but then she just nodded. Well, I'm glad you're home. Leora called earlier. I told her you'd call back. I'll do that now. I went upstairs to the bedroom, closed the door, and dialed Leora's number. She picked up on the second ring, her voice bright and warm. Hey, Dad. Hey, sweetheart, your mom said you called. Just checking in. Feels like I haven't talked to you in forever. I know, work's been crazy. Tell me about it. Desmond's been putting in late nights, too. I think tax season's killing him. I sat down on the edge of the bed, gripping the phone tighter. Late nights. Yeah, I managed. Busy time of year. Anyway, I just wanted to say hi. Love you, Dad. Love you too, Leora. I hung up and sat there staring at the wall. He's not working late, I thought. He's not at the office. He's with your mother, and you have no idea. Downstairs, I heard Monica moving around, turning off lights, locking doors. A few minutes later, she came upstairs, changed into her pajamas, and slipped into bed beside me. Good night, she murmured, already half asleep. I didn't answer. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathing slow and even out. Then I reached for the burner phone on the nightstand and pulled up the photos Vincent had sent. 4 images. Monica and Desmond. Kissing. Holding hands. Walking into that hotel together. I stared at them until my eyes burned. Then I closed the phone and set it back down. Not today, I thought. But soon I'd make them both pay. Pamela looked up from her desk. When I walked into the office, her reading glasses perched on her nose. Morning, Mr. Lawson. You're in early. I forced a smile. Got some paperwork to catch up on. Can you pull the financials for me, everything from the last 2 years? Excel files and hard copies. She blinked, surprised. All of it? All of it. Okay, give me 20 minutes. I went to my office and closed the door. Sat down at my desk and stared at the framed photo on the wall. Me and Monica at the groundbreaking for our first major project 35 years ago. We were young then, smiling. I turned the frame face down. 20 minutes later, Pamela knocked and came in with her arms full. 2 thick binders and a thumb drive. Ma, here you go. Company accounts, payroll, vendor invoices, everything. Thanks, Pamela. She hesitated at the door. Everything okay? Fine, just routine. She left. I waited until I heard her footsteps fade, then I locked the door. I opened the first binder and started at the beginning. For the first hour, everything looked normal. Payroll matched expectations. Vendor invoices for lumber, steel equipment rentals, all legitimate. Insurance premiums, utilities, the usual overhead. Then I hit month 18. A line item caught my eye. Financial consulting services, Harmon and Associates. $3,200. I frowned. I didn't remember approving that. We didn't use outside financial consultants. We had an in-house accountant. I flipped the page. Another invoice. Harmon and Associates. $2,800. And another. $3,100. I went back through the binder, highlighting every entry. By the time I finished, I'd found 23 invoices, all from Harmon and Associates, all approved and paid. Total $47,000. My jaw tightened. Harmon and Associates was Desmond's firm. I plugged the thumb drive into my computer and opened the Excel file. They were all there, dated over the past 18 months. Each one had a scanned approval form attached, with my signature on it, except I'd never signed them. I zoomed in on the signature. It looked close. But the T in Trevor was wrong. Too sharp. And the loop in the L of Lawson didn't close all the way. Small details most people wouldn't notice, but I would. I'd been signing my name for 63 years. This wasn't my signature. I sat back, breathing hard. Monica had access to the company accounts. She'd worked as our bookkeeper for years before we hired someone full-time. She still had login credentials. Still knew the system inside and out. She'd forged my signature. Paid Desmond's company $47,000 for services we never received. I kept digging. Next, I found checks. 8 of them written to subcontractors I didn't recognize. J&L Masonry, Apex Plumbing, Redwood Framing. Each one between $3,000 and $5,000. I cross-referenced the names with our project records. None of them had ever worked for us. I Googled each company. Nothing. No websites, no business listings, no phone numbers. They didn't exist. 8 fake checks. $28,000. All signed with my forged signature. I felt my hands curl into fists. Then I found the transfer. June 14th. A wire transfer from our primary operating account to an account in the Cayman Islands. $125,000. The authorization form had Monica's name on it, her login credentials, her digital signature. She'd moved $125,000 out of our company and into an offshore account I'd never heard of. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. She hadn't just been hiding an affair. She'd been stealing, systematically, for over a year. But there was more. At the bottom of the second binder, tucked into a plastic sleeve, was a contract I didn't recognize. I pulled it out and read the header. Stock transfer agreement. My blood went cold. The document stated that I, Trevor Lawson, was transferring 40% ownership of Lawson & Sons Construction to Monica Lawson effective July 15th of this year, in exchange for her years of service and partnership in building the company. At the bottom was my signature, forged. I checked the date. July 15th, 2 months ago. If this document was legally filed, Monica now owned 40% of my company. 40% of $8.5 million. $3.4 million. And I'd never signed it. I grabbed my phone and took pictures of everything. Every invoice, every check, every transfer, the forged contract. I sent them all to Vincent and Warren in a single message. Then I called my attorney. He picked up on the third ring. Trevor, what's going on? I need advice, fast. I laid it all out. The affair, the forged signatures, the offshore transfer, the stock agreement. He was quiet for a long moment. This is fraud, Trevor, embezzlement, forgery. You need to go to the police. Not yet, Trevor. I need more. If I go to the cops now, they'll arrest her, sure. But Desmond's a financial advisor. He'll have covered his tracks. I need to know everything before I move. I need proof that ties him to this, not just her. My attorney sighed. Then get me copies of everything. I'll start building the case, but don't wait too long. The longer this goes on, the more they can hide. I won't. I hung up and sat there staring at the documents spread across my desk. $47,000 in fake consulting fees. $28,000 in fake checks. $125,000 wired offshore. 40% of my company stolen with a forged signature. Total damage $200,000 in cash. $3.4 million in equity. This wasn't just an affair. They weren't just sleeping together. They were stealing my company. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting. I could see the company sign from here. Lawson & Sons Construction. Established 1986. I'd built that company from nothing. I'd poured 38 years of sweat and blood into it, and Monica and Desmond thought they could just take it. I pressed my hand against the glass, my reflection staring back at me. They'd underestimated me. They thought I'd never notice. Thought I was too busy, too trusting, too old to see what they were doing. They were wrong. I turned away from the window and looked at the documents on my desk. Evidence, proof, ammunition. They wanted to take everything I'd built. Fine. I'd take everything from them instead. My phone rang at 7 in the morning. I was in the kitchen staring at a cup of coffee I hadn't touched. Monica had already left for her morning yoga class. Or so she'd said. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. The burner, I answered. Yeah, Vincent's voice came through low and urgent. I've got something. You need to hear this. Meet me at the diner on Route 9 in 30 minutes. What is it? Not over the phone. Just come. He hung up. I grabbed my keys and left. The diner was one of those old roadside places with cracked vinyl booths and a waitress who'd been working there since the 80s. At this hour, it was nearly empty. Just a trucker at the counter and Vincent sitting in the back corner booth, a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. I slid in across from him. He didn't waste time. He pulled a pair of headphones from his jacket pocket and set them on the table between us. I installed an audio device in Monica's car 3 days ago, he said quietly. You're the registered owner, so it's legal. You gave consent. I stared at the headphones. What did you find? Just listen. He pushed his phone across the table. I picked up the headphones, put them on, and hit play. At first, there was just the sound of a car engine. Road noise. Then Monica's voice clear as day. I talked to my lawyer. A pause. Then Desmond's voice smoother, calmer. And if Trevor passes, I inherit everything. The company, the house, the life insurance policy, $2 million. My stomach dropped. We can't wait forever, Monica. He's 63 and healthy as an ox. We need to speed this up. I heard Monica sigh. What are you suggesting? An accident. Desmond's tone didn't change. Casual, like he was talking about the weather. Construction sites are dangerous places. Scaffolding collapses, equipment malfunctions. No one would question it. Silence. Long enough that I thought the recording had stopped. Then Monica spoke. And how soon? I ripped the headphones off. Vincent was watching me, his face grim. There's more. I didn't want to hear more, but I put the headphones back on. The recording picked up again 15 minutes later based on the timestamp. They were still in the car. Desmond was talking. Once he's gone, we liquidate the company. Take the $8.5 million and disappear. Start over somewhere warm. Maybe the Caribbean. Leora will get over it eventually. She's weak, just like her father. Monica laughed. Actually laughed. She doesn't even suspect. Last Sunday at dinner, she asked me if we were okay. I told her we were planning a second honeymoon. You're one hell of an actress, babe. The recording ended. I sat there gripping the edge of the table so hard my knuckles turned white. The diner sounds around me faded into nothing. All I could hear was Monica's voice in my head. How soon? She'd asked how soon they could arrange my accident. Vincent pulled the headphones back and tucked them away. That's conspiracy to cause serious harm, Trevor. Maybe worse. You need to take this to the police, right now. I shook my head. Trevor. No. My voice came out hoarse. I cleared my throat and tried again. If I go to the cops now, they'll arrest them. Maybe. But Desmond's got money. He'll post bail. They'll destroy evidence. Lawyer up. And it'll turn into a he said, she said nightmare. You have a recording. Of them talking. Not acting. A good lawyer will argue it was just talk. Fantasy. Venting. I leaned forward. And even if it sticks, Leora will be caught in the middle. Her mother arrested, her husband arrested, and she'll blame me for tearing her family apart. Vincent's jaw tightened. So what do you want to do? I want to catch them in the act. In the act of what sabotaging a job site, that's a good way to get yourself hurt, or worse. I'm not going to let them hurt me. I met his eyes. But I need to know when they're planning to move. I need more recordings, more proof. I need to know their timeline so I can be ready. Vincent studied me for a long moment. You're playing a dangerous game. They started the game. I'm just finishing it. He sighed and pulled out a notebook. Fine. I'll keep the device active. I'll monitor it daily. If I hear anything about timing or specific plans, I'll contact you immediately. But Trevor, if this escalates, if I think you're in real danger, I'm going to the police myself. Understood. Understood. He closed the notebook. 2 weeks. That's all I'm giving you. After that, we take this to the authorities, whether you like it or not. 2 weeks is enough. We shook hands. I left cash on the table for a coffee I didn't drink and walked out into the bright morning sunlight. My truck was the only vehicle in the far corner of the lot. I got in, closed the door, and sat there with my hands on the steering wheel. Then I pulled out the burner phone, opened Vincent's message, and played the recording again. Monica's voice filled the cab. If Trevor passes, I inherit everything. How soon? She doesn't even suspect. I stopped the playback at that last line. Rewound it. Played it again. She doesn't even suspect. Monica was talking about Leora, my daughter. The little girl I'd carried on my shoulders. The woman I'd walked down the aisle. The person I loved more than anything in this world. And Monica had looked her in the eye, smiled and lied about planning a second honeymoon while plotting to end her father's life. Desmond had called her weak. Like me. My hands tightened on the wheel. I wasn't weak, and neither was Leora. She was strong. Stronger than Monica. Stronger than Desmond. She just didn't know it yet. But she would. When this was over, when the smoke cleared, and the lies were exposed, Leora would see exactly who her mother and husband really were. And she'd be standing beside me when it happened. I started the engine. 2 weeks. That's all I needed. 2 weeks to gather every piece of evidence, every recording, every document, every witness. And then I was going to end this. Not the way they wanted, not with an accident on a job site or a forged contract or stolen money. My way. I pulled out of the parking lot and headed home, the recording still playing in my head. They wanted me gone. They were going to regret that. I stood at the living room window watching the street. Monica had left an hour ago, coffee mug in hand, telling me she had back-to-back client meetings all day. She'd kissed my cheek on her way out. I'd smiled and told her to drive safe. Now I was waiting. Warren's truck pulled up first, followed by Vincent's sedan. I opened the door before they could knock. "Come in, quickly." They followed me into the kitchen. I'd already cleared the table, set out 3 mugs of coffee. We sat, and for a moment, nobody spoke. Then Warren leaned forward. "So what's the plan?" I pulled out a notepad I'd been working on for the past 3 days. Every detail, every step, every contingency. "We're going to catch them," I said. "In the act. In my house. In front of witnesses they can't intimidate or pay off." Vincent raised an eyebrow. "How?" I laid it out. "This Thursday, I'm going to tell Monica I have to drive out to Riverside to check on a project. She'll think I'll be gone overnight. The moment I leave, she'll call Desmond." Warren nodded slowly. "You've checked the pattern. Every time I've traveled in the past 6 months, there's a call to him within an hour. Phone records don't lie, so they'll come here, to my house, to my bed. And that's when we spring the trap." I pulled a small bottle from my jacket pocket and set it on the table. Clear liquid. No label. Obviously, 3 days ago I found this in Monica's nightstand. Intimate gel. Half empty. We haven't been intimate in over 2 years. She's been hiding it, using it with him. Vincent leaned forward. "And I bought an identical bottle online. Emptied it. Refilled it with the same industrial rat glue I'm using for the bed. Swapped them yesterday. Put the fake back in her drawer exactly where she keeps it." Warren's eyes widened. "You're telling me that they'll apply it themselves, before they even touch the sheets? They'll coat their skin thinking it's lubricant, and by the time they realize something's wrong, they'll already be bonded together." Vincent sat back, shaking his head slowly. "That's diabolical. That's insurance," I said. "The glue on the bed might not catch them perfectly, but if they use that bottle first, there's no escape." I explained the rest. The thin cotton sheets I'd already bought. The 2 bottles of industrial rat glue I'd picked up from a hardware supplier 2 towns over, paying cash. It's designed for large rodents. Dries clear in about 90 minutes. No smell. No color. You'd never know it was there until pressure and body heat activate it through the fabric. You can't just pull away. If you try, it tears. Vincent crossed his arms. "You're going to glue them to your bed. To the bed. To each other. To themselves." I met his eyes. "They'll be stuck there until someone comes to help. Which is where the 911 call comes in." I explained the prepaid phone bought with cash 3 weeks ago. A concerned neighbor reporting smoke and possible cries for help from 47 Maple Street. Fire department responds fast. Police too. And they'll bring EMTs. Warren's face went pale. "Leora. She works the Thursday afternoon shift. I checked her schedule." I felt something twist in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "She'll walk into that house with her team, and she'll see exactly what her mother and her husband have been doing." The kitchen went quiet. Vincent spoke first. "That's cruel, Trevor." "No. What's cruel is lying to your daughter while sleeping with her husband. What's cruel is planning to end her father's life for money. I'm giving Leora the chance to see who they really are before it's too late." Warren rubbed his face. "And after the responders get them unstuck, then I show up. With you, Vincent. With every piece of evidence we've gathered. Photos, recordings, financial documents. We hand it all to the police right there, in front of Leora. In front of the neighbors. In front of everyone. They wanted to bury me in an accident. Make it look random. I'm going to bury them in their own lies. Publicly. Completely. Vincent leaned back. The glue. You're sure it won't cause permanent harm? If it does, you're opening yourself up to assault charges. I checked. The manufacturer says it's non-toxic, causes irritation but no lasting damage. And considering they're planning to cause me serious harm, any lawyer will argue this is justifiable defense. Still risky. Everything about this is risky. I looked between them. But I need them caught red-handed. Undeniable. So when Leora has to choose who to believe, there's no question. Warren was quiet for a long time. Then he sighed. This is insane, Trevor. I know. If it goes wrong, you could lose everything. I've already lost my daughter's mother. Desmond's already trying to take my company. I've got nothing left to lose except Leora, and I'm not losing her to their lies. Warren stared at me. Then slowly he nodded. All right, I'm in. What do you need? Be ready Thursday. Stay close. When I call, meet me 2 blocks from the house. We'll go in together after the responders arrive. I turned to Vincent. You too. Bring copies of everything. Vincent hesitated. If you go through with this, there's no going back. This will get ugly. It's already ugly. It'll get worse. So I'm good. I want it public. I want everyone in this town to know exactly what they did. Vincent studied me, then nodded. All right. Thursday. Warren stood extending his hand. I shook it. This is insane, he said again. But I'm with you. I shook Vincent's hand next. Thank you. Both of you. They left through the back door 5 minutes apart. When they were gone, I went upstairs. I stood in the bedroom doorway, looking at the bed Monica and I had shared for 38 years. The bed where we'd held each other through bad dreams, where I'd brought her breakfast on her birthday. They wanted to use this bed to mock me. Not anymore. I pulled out my phone and set a reminder. Thursday. 2 days from now. They wanted to bury me. I was going to bury their lies instead. The house felt different when I knew she wasn't coming back. I stood in the bedroom doorway listening to the silence. Monica had left 20 minutes ago, her car pulling out at 9:30. She'd told me she had a client meeting downtown. My phone buzzed. Vincent's text on the burner. Subject en route to Riverside Inn, ETA 10 minutes. I slipped the phone away and opened Monica's nightstand drawer. The bottle was still there, tucked under a stack of old magazines exactly where I'd left it after the swap. The real one, her bottle of intimate gel, sat in a paper bag in my glove compartment, waiting to be discarded. The fake one I'd left behind yesterday looked identical. Same brand, same cap, same clear liquid inside. Except it wasn't gel, it was industrial rat glue. I closed the drawer and went to the garage. Behind a stack of old paint cans, I'd hidden the rest of the supplies. 2 more bottles of the same glue, 32 ounces each. A roll of thin plastic sheeting, rubber gloves, and a new set of cream-colored cotton sheets identical to the ones Monica had picked out 3 years ago. I carried everything upstairs. The gloves went on first. Thick yellow rubber. I flexed my fingers and got to work. I stripped the bed. The old sheets came off easily. I folded them and set them aside. Underneath the mattress looked the same as it had for a decade. A few faint stains, a small tear near the corner Monica had always meant to fix. I unrolled the plastic sheeting and spread it across the mattress, tucking the edges so it wouldn't shift. This wasn't about ruining the bed. It was about protection. Then I opened the first glue bottle. The liquid was thick and clear like honey, but heavier. I poured slowly, starting in the center and working outward in a grid, 4 feet by 5 feet. Enough to cover the space where 2 people would lie close together. The first bottle emptied. I opened the second and kept going, filling gaps, making sure the coverage was even, no bare spots. When I finished, I stepped back. The surface glistened faintly in the morning light. It looked wet, but the label said it would dry in 90 minutes. Transparent. Odorless. undetectable unless you touched it. I set a timer and went downstairs. In the kitchen, I made coffee I didn't drink and stared out the window. Mrs. Patterson was watering her roses. 2 houses down, someone was mowing their lawn. Normal Wednesday morning in Millbrook Heights. Nobody knew what was happening inside my house. When the timer went off, I returned upstairs. The glue had dried exactly as promised. The surface was smooth and clear with just a faint sheen. I crouched down and pressed my gloved hand against it. It stuck immediately. I pulled gently, then harder. The glove stretched but didn't come free. I had to peel it off slowly, and even then I felt the resistance. Perfect. I peeled off the gloves and threw them in a trash bag with the empty bottles. Then I pulled out the new sheets. They were thin, thinner than Monica usually bought. I'd done that on purpose. The thinner the fabric, the easier for the glue to make contact with skin through the material. I spread the fitted sheet carefully over the mattress, pulling it tight at the corners. The flat sheet went on next, tucked loosely the way Monica liked. Then the comforter fluffed and arranged so it looked normal. I stepped back. The bed looked untouched. Perfectly ordinary. You'd never know anything was wrong unless you lay down. I pressed my bare hand against the top sheet. I could feel the tackiness underneath, faint but present. Just enough. I grabbed the trash bag and the real gel bottle from my car. On the drive out of town, I stopped at a gas station 15 miles away and tossed everything into a public dumpster behind the building. No cameras, no witnesses. By the time I got home, it was 6 o'clock. Monica's car was in the driveway. I parked beside it and sat for a moment, gripping the wheel. She was inside, probably making dinner, probably thinking about tomorrow when I'd be gone and Desmond would be here. I went in. She was in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove. She turned when she heard me. The smell hit me before she spoke. Cologne. Men's cologne. Not mine. "Hey," she said, smiling. "You're home." I was starting to think you'd gotten stuck at the site. I set my keys on the counter. "Just finishing up paperwork. Dinner's almost ready, chicken and rice." I nodded and sat. We ate in silence. I wasn't hungry, but I forced down a few bites. Monica chatted about her day, something about a client's messy tax records, and I made the appropriate noises. She didn't mention Desmond. She never did. After dinner, I went upstairs and pulled a suitcase from the closet. I packed slowly. A few shirts, jeans, toiletries, everything I'd need for a fake trip. Monica appeared in the doorway. "When will you be back?" I zipped the suitcase. "Friday night. Maybe Saturday morning, depending on the inspection." She nodded. "Drive safe." I looked at her. Really looked. At the woman I'd married 38 years ago. At the mother of my daughter. At the person who'd stood beside me through every struggle. At the stranger who'd been planning to end my life. "I will," I said. That night, I climbed into bed beside her one last time. She fell asleep quickly, her breathing soft and even. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the faint tackiness beneath the sheets. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow everything ends. When the alarm went off at 5, Monica didn't stir. I got up quietly dressed and stood at the foot of the bed. For 38 years, I'd loved this woman. For 38 years, I'd trusted her. For 38 years, I'd believed we were building something together. And tomorrow, I was going to watch her world collapse. I picked up my suitcase and walked out. At 6, I was standing on Warren's porch. He opened the door in his bathrobe, eyes half closed. "It's done," he asked. I nodded. "It's done." He stepped aside and let me in. Now all I had to do was wait. I stood on the sidewalk and watched Leora disappear through the front door. I couldn't see what happened next. The angle was wrong, the crowd too thick. But later I pieced it together. From what the responders told Warren, from what Leora said when she could finally speak, from what I saw when I walked in, this is what happened. Leora stepped into the living room, Captain Hayes right behind her. The firefighters fanned out, checking for smoke. Nothing. No haze. No heat. Just an empty room that smelled faintly of coffee and Monica's lavender soap. Officer Reynolds moved past them. Millbrook Heights Police, is anyone home? Silence. Then faint and desperate, a voice from upstairs.